let's welcome people, let's make them feel loved, and let's do stuff for them, and help them to feel like Coventry welcomes them and so on. And that's those are the things that I'm sure we do quite well. As we've changed though, we very much emphasise work as an end point or certainly a significant landmark on people's journey into successful life in the UK. And that's partly in response to, I didn't know that Mustafa was coming today, but it's partly in response to people like Mustafa who have expressed frustration at barriers to employment and the challenges of the things that we put people through, and wanting to feel as if they're making a positive contribution to society. So in some ways I have some slight conflicts with some of my voluntary sector partners, in as much as we're a little bit more direct now with people in terms of if we think that work is a realistic outcome for people. If somebody's in a wheelchair and had multiple difficulties and challenges and so on, then of course we know that that's not appropriate for that client. But where we think and where we know clients are going to be keen to get involved in work, we're very much focusing almost from the first few weeks of people arriving. What do we need to do? What are the different steps that we need to take to help people to be in a position where they can get into work? And that's a real key factor in terms of assisting integration, and in terms of other people in the city seeing refugees playing a positive role. And as I say, I'll talk until I'm blue in the face about the challenges of people living on benefits in the UK. It's a really tough situation, and it is not somewhere that people want to be. And we're not helping people by, in any way, shape, or form, supporting them to be in a situation where they rely on benefits for a long period. So ESOL starts the first week, even with things like the Jesus Centre, where we have just conversational English classes just to get people going. But factoring people into structured ESOL programs is a real priority. And now this year we've got a little bit of extra funding, and we're building up more and more how much time we try and get people to spend learning English. We offer volunteering and work placement opportunities when people are ready, because again we think that's very positive. Obviously we have to help people to get a new CV. Many people come without the sort of references and things that we take for granted on our CVs, and qualifications that people might have. That is possible to get some of them transferred across to UK equivalents, but it's not straightforward, it takes time. And so things like volunteering and work placements are really, really, really good for helping people to have some positive things to say when they're approaching the employers. It's a picture of Timpson's in Coventry. We've got Khalid and Barra. They were on a work trial when this picture was taken. Barra's successfully completed that and is working with Timpson's now. So 6-9 months after. Khalid didn't quite work out, but he's gone on to other things and has, I think, got a job in the last few weeks. So we're making progress and we're encouraged. I'm the head of libraries, so libraries is a key part of what we offer to people. We encourage people to use our libraries. The range of children's resources in particular, but other easy-read English resources that we have are very useful. The computers, it's very difficult for people to be able to afford lots of different things that we take for granted, so we have free access to computers. We try and do classes in the library, and has helped us with 1 or 2 of those, which has been great, thank you. And here we've got some children in the children's library and central library doing some activities while their parents are either on the computer upstairs or having English in a separate class. So we use libraries quite a lot. And we've had a great deal of support in Coventry as well. This is Bishop Christopher with our Lord Mayor last year, speaking at an event to celebrate refugees being welcome in Coventry. Bishop Christopher's been a real supporter of what we've done, both centrally and locally, and has given encouragement to the council and support, and continually presses the government to be as supportive as they can be for refugees and for the flow of refugees, really. This was an event that took place at St Peter's in Hillfields, which is where a number of the Syrian families came together to cook some food and say thank you to the city for different things that have been done for them. It was very, very successful, raised some money for the refugee centre, and the tickets were sold out very quickly, and that was a room packed full of people who all wanted to be involved in that event, in recognising the city's contribution to the refugee crisis. So as I say, English is what we spend a lot of time talking around that. Very important. We have a number of clients who, because of their frustration, have been tempted by opportunities to work in what we might call the informal economy. It's not good for them. It puts them in physical danger. It also puts them in danger in terms of their refugee status and their sort of prospects in the long term in the UK. But the benefits cap, the prospective move to universal credit anytime now, are a real challenge. For families of 5 and 6, the reality is today that the benefits system doesn't allow them any support for their housing costs, and it is very, very challenging, and it makes us realise how challenging life is for other people in the city who are reliant on benefits. Accessing sustainable, affordable housing is again increasingly an issue, and because of the challenges of the benefits system, people being able to sustain tenancies and live in any sort of normal housing situation is very, very difficult. And of course, again, thinking about some of the things that we talked about earlier, my job is kind of very clearly supporting refugees and making sure that the different agencies that we commission do a good job for refugees in the city. But also my job is to make sure that there's a positivity and the city continues to be of a kind of welcoming mentality towards refugees. I would say 360 people. We've had 3 incidents of antisocial behaviour over 3 years towards our clients. Coventry's a very integrated city comparatively. I wouldn't say we were perfect by any means, but people live side by side with people from different other communities, and people get along generally very, very well. As I say, it's not universal. There are different people everywhere, and I think for many of us in Coventry, Brexit was a tragedy individually and for the city, we would say, but also we were very surprised by the actual fact that Coventry voted to leave. And I would have looked anybody in the eye the week before and told you that of course Coventry's going to vote to stay in the EU. It's the sort of place that we live in, but that actually wasn't the case. So we've done some work in another place to try and unpack some of that in terms of what the motivations for that were. But we've not particularly noticed any spike in difficulties or antagonism towards refugees in the city, and I think it's some of the frustrations with the EU and some of the nuancing of the Leave campaign around things like the NHS and so on, which were perhaps in retrospect quite misleading. Those are the sorts of things perhaps that people have bought into. But we're very proud of what we've done. We can only do so much, but a lot of our programme is about how we support children. This is Yusra's children. Yusra's husband sadly passed away before she was able to come to Coventry, so she does really well with her children. And that's Batul and her brothers, who've been doing a lot of work at the Positive Youth Foundation and have been achieving lots of awards and things. So really, to see the progress that children make from arriving, often in very, uncomfortable circumstances, feeling very sad about the world, to within a year or 2 years really integrating into the city and starting to achieve is very good. I'm often asked why Coventry. Why was Coventry one of the first three, and why have we taken the most? And I think I've worked in a number of different local authorities, and there is something different about Coventry. I think the fact that a lot of residents lived with the reality of the Blitz for many years. Many people had to move to different parts of the UK, and the city's experienced not the same as happened in Aleppo or in Homs, but as the city, as part of its living memory, has seen significant violent upheaval, and so there's an empathy for refugees I think that doesn't exist everywhere, and the cathedral's dedication to peace and reconciliation is something that is meaningful and has made a difference. So that is all I wanted to say. I hope it was helpful, and very much happy to answer any questions or talk about any of the things that I've raised. Yes.
Thank you very much for that, Peter. Loads of questions I could ask, but maybe start the discussion around the